Today, we're going to tell you something real, something history tried to bury for centuries. For generations, one torture device was erased from every official record in China, a tool so terrifying that even executioners refused to touch it. Why did the imperial court hide this device? Who created it? And what really happened to the victims who were never allowed to die quickly? Today, we open a forbidden archive, uncovering secret diaries filled with execution reports that survived only because one man risked his life to record them. What did he see? Why did he call this device worse than death itself? And why did the emperor order its destruction, even though thousands had already suffered under it? But be warned, once you understand how this device worked and why it was hidden for centuries, you will never look at human cruelty the same way again.
China's imperial courts maintained a reputation for discipline, order, and ceremonial precision. But beneath that polished surface lay an unspoken truth. A complex network of secret chambers, interrogation rooms, and torture facilities, hidden from the public eye. Officially, these chambers did not exist. In reality, they operated continuously, fueled by the fear of rebellion, corruption, and treason. Today, we step into the one archive the dynasty desperately tried to burn. The only surviving record of a torture device so feared that even executioners hesitated to use it. To understand why this device was created, we must go back to a time when political paranoia ruled the empire. The late imperial era was a period marked by rising tension, peasant uprisings, foreign invasions, collapsing economies, and corrupt ministers who manipulated the throne. In such an environment, fear became a political tool, and cruel innovation followed closely behind. Hidden deep inside the Ministry of Justice was a special department known only in whispers as the Chamber of Silent Corrections. On paper, it handled routine interrogation, but in reality, it was responsible for extracting confessions by any means necessary. Torture was not a punishment, it was a strategy. It was used to break a person before their words ever reached the emperor. One of the few surviving documents from this hidden department comes from a minor official named Chen Hualiang. Chen was not a high-ranking figure, nor a famous scholar. He was an archivist, a quiet man who copied reports, recorded testimonies, and sealed documents for the imperial vaults. But what made him different was his conscience. As he watched prisoners enter the chamber and never return, he felt compelled to record the truth privately. His secret diary, discovered generations later in a collapsed estate, is the reason we know this device ever existed. According to Chen's writings, the device was not designed for swift execution. It was designed for something far more unsettling: prolonged psychological collapse. The purpose was not merely to inflict pain, but to destroy the victim's sense of self, to distort time, identity, and the will to resist. Chen referred to it as the instrument that stole the mind before the body.
But what could possibly drive a government to create such a thing? To understand that, we must examine one of the darkest periods of the Qing dynasty, the purges of internal dissent. In this era, a single accusation, true or false, could condemn a person and erase their family's future. Ministers accused one another of treason, rivals fabricated evidence, and innocent people disappeared into the Ministry of Justice without explanation. Confessions, whether voluntary or forced, were the currency that determined guilt. The empire did not need truth. It needed compliance. And compliance required terror. Chen's diary describes the arrival of prisoners in chilling detail. They were transported in covered carts, gagged to prevent them from hearing one another, their wrists bound behind bamboo restraints that cut deeper with every movement.
Many believed they were being taken to an execution ground. Few suspected the truth. They were being taken somewhere worse. The Chamber of Silent Corrections consisted of 3 subdivided rooms. The first was a waiting area, cold, dimly lit, filled with the faint scent of burning sandalwood. This was where prisoners were held for hours to weaken their resolve. The second was the interrogation hall, where officials posed scripted questions, their voices expressionless, their hands rarely touching the tools around them. But the third room, the forbidden chamber, was where the device was kept, a room without windows, without guards, without sound. Only a single candle illuminated the center of the space, where a wooden platform stood covered by cloth. Chen described the atmosphere of this room as unnaturally silent, as if the walls themselves refused to echo the suffering that occurred within them. No tool made of iron or rope should ever frighten a seasoned executioner, yet this one did. Why? Chen never described the device directly. Instead, he listed the reactions of those who saw it. One executioner fainted. Another refused to return to work. A third reported seeing faces that did not belong to the living. But the most troubling detail came from a retired interrogator named Su Liang. During his final testimony, Su wrote, "Those who entered the chamber did not scream. They whispered. They whispered things that made no sense, as if speaking to someone who wasn't there." This single sentence suggests the device targeted not just the body, but the mind. What makes Chen's diary especially disturbing is his description of the victims. These were not hardened criminals or notorious assassins. Many were scholars, petitioners, merchants, and even low-ranking officials caught in political crossfires. Chen wrote that the majority entered the chamber with determination, convinced of their innocence. But after a single session with the device, their spirit broke completely. Some confessed to crimes that did not exist. Some begged for execution. Some whispered to the walls, repeating the same phrase, "Make it stop." But what was it? This question forms the heart of our investigation. Chen never gave the device a name. Instead, he used metaphors: the hollow instrument, the cage of echoes, the wheel of silence. Each of these descriptions suggests a design focused on sensory deprivation, psychological manipulation, or disorientation. To uncover more, we must follow the most detailed account in the diary, the report of a prisoner named Zhao Min. Zhao was a scholar accused of writing a poem that supposedly insulted the emperor. Whether he wrote it or not remains unknown. What is known is that Zhao was taken to the forbidden chamber after refusing to confess. Chen writes, "Zhao entered the chamber with clarity in his eyes. When he emerged, the clarity was gone. He walked as if his body no longer belonged to him." Zhao was asked a simple question by the officials: "Do you confess?" He whispered, "I don't remember." Not, "I refuse." Not, "I am innocent," but "I don't remember." This response terrified the interrogators. Whatever happened inside the chamber did not just break Zhao, it erased him. Chen's diary ends this section with a chilling line. The device does not seek answers, it seeks surrender. By the time Zhao was executed, he could no longer speak in coherent sentences. His final words were recorded, though they made little sense. "Light, don't let the light touch me." This line is the key to understanding the device, and we will dismantle it in the next chapter. Because the truth hidden beneath centuries of secrecy is this: the forbidden device was not designed to kill the body. It was designed to unmake the mind. To understand the true purpose of the forbidden device, we must return to Chen Hualiang's diary.
because within its fading ink lies the only surviving testimony of how the chamber operated. Chen never described the device in physical terms. He avoided detailing its construction, shape, or materials. Instead, he wrote about its effects on the air, on the mind, and on the people who entered the room. From his perspective, the device was not simply an object. It was an environment, a system, a psychological weapon. The chamber itself was engineered with meticulous precision. According to Chen's notes, it was built underground, layered with thick stone to trap every sound. The walls were coated with a strange mixture of ash and resin, designed to muffle echoes. Even a loud scream would die before reaching the door. In this silence, time became distorted. A person could spend minutes, hours, or days inside and lose any sense of duration. Chen believed this sensory deprivation was the foundation of the device's power. But the most disturbing element was the way the chamber manipulated light. Only a single lantern or candle was allowed, positioned behind the victim at a very specific angle. This light cast long, wavering shadows across the walls, shadows that resembled distorted human figures. Executioners reported seeing these shapes move even when no one was near them. One interrogator described the effect. The shadows behaved like living things. They swayed, they bent, they shivered, as if something inside the walls wanted to come out. Zhao Min, the scholar whose mind unraveled in the chamber, also spoke of these shadows. After his release, he repeatedly muttered, "They were watching me. Not the guards, the walls." Chen theorized that the shadows created a psychological loop, tricking the prisoner's mind into believing they were not alone. In total isolation, the human brain desperately seeks patterns, faces, voices. The chamber exploited this instinct, turning silence into a hallucination factory.
But shadows were only the beginning. The device itself, though hidden under cloth, produced subtle vibrations. These vibrations were not strong enough to shake the floor or cause pain. Instead, they created a soft resonance, barely audible, more felt than heard. Prisoners described it as a heartbeat that did not belong to them. Some said it came from the walls. Others said it came from the cloth-covered object. Chen wrote, "The hum was constant. At first it felt like nothing. Then it became everything." Prolonged exposure to this low-frequency vibration purportedly caused confusion, dizziness, and disorientation. Victims could no longer differentiate between their own thoughts and the rhythm surrounding them. This effect made interrogation effortless. Prisoners entered the chamber defiant, but after a session, they emerged unable to form complex sentences. Another account in Chen's diary came from an assistant interrogator named Li Shen. He claimed the device altered the sound of a person's own breathing. He wrote, "Inside that room, my breath echoed strangely. It sounded like someone else was breathing beside me, copying me." For the victims, this produced overwhelming paranoia. The psychological torture was far more effective than any physical harm. The empire understood something modern science would not discover for centuries. Fear of the unseen destroys a mind faster than physical pain. This principle was at the heart of the device. Chen recorded that prisoners often entered the chamber believing they could resist, but after an hour, they struggled to remember their own names. After 2 hours, they begged for light. After 3, they would confess to anything, true or false, just to escape the room. The device never broke a body. It broke identity. But the most chilling evidence comes from one of the rare cases where an interrogator spent time in the chamber alone. His name was Su John, a man known for his brutal efficiency and unwavering loyalty to the court. One night, as punishment for insubordination, he was ordered to remain inside the forbidden chamber for half an hour. He emerged minutes before the time expired, shaking, pale, and unable to walk without assistance. Sujan refused to speak about what he experienced. Instead, he wrote a single line and resigned from his post. "There was someone behind me, but I was alone." He died 2 months later, reportedly refusing to sleep unless a lantern burned beside his bed. Chen believed Sujan's reaction proved that the device did not rely on superstition or ghosts, but on a calculated manipulation of sensory input. The chamber distorted sight, sound, and time in a way that eroded a person's reality until they no longer knew what to believe.
But what truly terrified Chen was the discovery he made near the end of his diary. Hidden among the execution records, he found an older document, one far more dangerous. It suggested that the forbidden device was not invented during the Qing dynasty. Its origins dated back centuries earlier, to a time when emperors sought new methods of control. Chen wrote, "The device is not a new invention, it is a resurrection." This revelation changed everything. The forbidden device was part of a lineage, one that had resurfaced many times in Chinese history, each time more advanced, more effective, more hidden. If Chen's diary is to be believed, the version used in the Qing dynasty was the last and most refined. After Qiao Min's death, and after Sujan's collapse, the imperial court finally understood the danger of its own creation. What happened next would determine the fate of the device and all who knew of it. And that is where the story turns, because the empire realized something terrifying. If the device could break the mind of an enemy, it could also break the mind of those who controlled it. When the imperial court realized that the forbidden method they relied upon could corrupt its own masters, fear spread through the highest ranks of the Qing government. The chamber that once served as a tool of absolute control had become a threat, one that could unravel the minds of those who administered it just as easily as those who endured it. Chen Hualiang's final entries reveal a dramatic shift inside the ministry. Whispers in the corridors, closed-door meetings between senior officials, secret messages exchanged in the dead of night. Something had changed. The question was no longer, how can we use this? It was, how do we destroy it? The first sign came when several interrogators refused to enter the underground room. These were men who had weathered years of brutal assignments without complaint, yet now even they would not cross the threshold. Chen noted that some had developed an irrational fear of darkness. Others reported hearing rhythmic pulses in their sleep, echoes of the subtle vibration inside the room. One man claimed that when he stood alone, he felt the presence of someone whispering behind him, even in broad daylight. The chamber had begun to follow them. This psychological contamination terrified the Grand Council. If the empire's own instruments of justice were collapsing mentally, the consequences could ripple outward, undermining the entire judicial system. There was only one solution: erase the chamber, erase the method, erase the knowledge. Chen described the day the order was given. It was delivered by an imperial messenger, carrying a scroll bound in dark red silk. The command came directly from the emperor himself. The seal was unmistakable. The order contained only 4 characters. Erase it completely.
There was no explanation, there was no debate. The chamber was to be dismantled, its contents burned, its floor collapsed, and its workers reassigned or silenced. That night, guards descended into the underground complex with lanterns, ropes, and chisels. Chen watched from a distance as the forbidden room was opened for the last time. The door groaned as if resisting. Dust billowed out, and the flickering lanterns illuminated the cloth-covered shape in the center. Still untouched, still mysterious, still humming faintly with a rhythm not entirely human. Several guards refused to step forward. Others chanted brief prayers before approaching. Chen noted that even the bravest among them kept their eyes averted from the cloth as they cut the ropes that held the platform in place. Then came the most chilling detail in Chen's diary. When the cloth was removed, not a single guard would describe what they saw. Some vomited. Some trembled uncontrollably. One man fled the building and did not return. Chen wrote only one line. It was not an object. It was a sensation made physical. Whatever lay beneath that cloth was beyond comprehension, not designed to kill, but to distort reality itself. The destruction began immediately. The platform was smashed into splinters. The stone walls were cracked open with iron hammers. Lantern oil was poured along the floor and set ablaze. Flames swallowed the room in minutes, sending waves of heat and charred vapor through the hallways. But as the fire burned, something strange occurred. Chen reported that the vibration, the low hum that had haunted interrogators and prisoners alike, grew louder. It reverberated through the stone walls, through the air, even through their bodies. The fire seemed to anger it. Guards covered their ears. Some collapsed. Then, as suddenly as it had risen, the vibration stopped. A silence deeper than any Chen had felt before settled over the ruins. It was the silence of something ending, something ancient, something forbidden. By dawn, nothing remained of the chamber but ashes and fractured stone. The entrance was sealed with heavy slabs. Workers were ordered to forget what they had seen. The records were burned, the witnesses reassigned. The empire turned the page. But Chen did not forget.
In his final diary entry, he wrote, "We buried a method of unmaking the mind. But some things do not stay buried. They wait." This last line raises a disturbing question. Was the forbidden method truly destroyed, or merely hidden once more? Chen's diary was found generations later, sealed inside the walls of his home. He vanished shortly after the chamber's destruction. Some say he was executed. Others say he fled. But there is no record of his death. His family line ends abruptly, as if erased. What remains is the diary, and the clues that the forbidden method existed long before the Qing dynasty ever wielded it. Today, historians still debate the truth. Was it an early form of psychological conditioning? A forgotten sensory manipulation technique? A secret system designed to fracture the mind? Or something even more ancient? Something that resurfaced whenever an empire needed fear more than truth? We may never know the full reality. The chamber is gone, the method lost, the ashes scattered. But Chen's final warning still echoes through time. If the mind can be broken by silence, then silence is the most dangerous tool of all.